The first time I felt the cold, hard steel tighten around my wrist was when I was 15 years old. My high school received a safety threat, and men who held what I can only describe as really big guns put me and multiple other kids in handcuffs. I was lucky that this was the only time I would experience the fear of being detained, but many of my peers, friends, and family have faced the fears that are behind the bars of prison. Children 18 and under have faced those fears, but those stories never make it beyond those bars. Hello, my name is Dalet Valles. I'm studying writing and publishing, and this is Beyond Bars. Often when we think of prison and crimes, many think of adults, but youth incarceration has become a silent epidemic that has been spreading across the United States. Children all around the United States make mistakes, but one thing changes the trajectory of their lives forever. And though juvenile detentions aim to rehabilitate, the negativity that comes with being in custody eradicates that goal. Once released, many children get labeled as criminals and hardly ever get a second chance. Education is no longer a priority, friends and family remove themselves from their lives, and these changes lead to recidivism, the likelihood of reoffending and ending up in prison once again. Though youth incarceration will always be an issue, the stereotypes that follow can be changed. In 2019, 696,620 children were arrested in the United States. A child or teen was arrested every 45 seconds despite a 62% reduction in arrests between 2009 and 2019. This is according to the Children's Defense Fund. In 2021, California's Office of the Attorney General conducted research that demonstrates the arrest rates and punishment levels of children. Research showed that there were 19,355 new juvenile arrests reported. 1,215 of those were status offenses, 9,008 of those were misdemeanors, while 9,132 of those were felonies. To give you a little background, status offenses are not considered a crime, but a law violation based on the child's age. Misdemeanors are crimes punishable by a year or less in prison or a fine, while a felony is a criminal offense punishable by over a year in prison or the death penalty. Based on the reported arrests, 14,571 were by male children, in comparison to 4,784 females. Of the total felony arrests, 7,566 were males and 1,576 were females. Felony arrests come from violent offenses which include arson, murder, vehicle theft, extortion, and assault. Property offenses consist of burglary, vandalism, larceny, shoplifting, and embezzlement, and drug offenses which include drug trafficking, possession, manufacturing, and distributing. Despite juvenile arrests consisting of 3 different punishment levels, felonies are the greatest among youth incarceration. This was reflected in the life of one of the men I interviewed, Rodolfo Rubio. This is Rudy, a pastor, a husband, a dad, and a grandfather, but formerly a gang member who was in frequent trouble with the law. I do want to be transparent with you. Rudy is a very close family friend who has led me to learn more about youth incarceration. I first believed that his incarceration story began as an adult, and initially I was going to interview him about his son who was arrested as a child. But as I gained more context for his son's story, I knew that his story was one telling as well. Rudy grew up without a male role model. He did not think that this was an issue as a kid, but as he analyzed his life as an adult, he noticed that having that role model would have immensely shaped his life differently. Rudy was first arrested when he was 9 years old, and from then on spent a lot of time going in and out of county probation facilities and the California Youth Authority, both forms of juvenile detention centers. From that moment, he was one of the handful of youth who fell victim to recidivism. At 15, he was placed in CYA in Stockton. Rudy was part of gangs in Huntington Park, but also integrated himself in cartels in Sinaloa, Mexico, and Baja California. Eventually, he became a fugitive and fled to Mexico to evade U.S. authorities. Once again, he ended up in prison and was released on parole in October 2010. This first picture is Esteban Rubio, and the second picture is Rudy. Esteban is Rudy's eldest son, who has also been impacted by the justice system as a child. At the age of 16, Esteban was arrested for the first time. Rudy had the following to say: "How was I supposed to tell my son to stay away from crime when I would constantly brag about that life?" 2 years later, Esteban was released, but like his father, fell victim to recidivism and was arrested once again. He is still in prison and is set for parole in 2030. Esteban and Rudy, though they share incarceration experiences, also share faith journeys. Esteban has recently given his life to Christ while in prison, similar to Rudy, who became a Christian in 2007 while he was in prison. Rubio became an ordained minister of Word and Sacrament for the Reformed Church in 2019 and has also planted a church in Lynwood. As a father who is working for his son's freedom from incarceration and a pastor who works with troubled youth, he gives parents this advice. Parents, never stop encouraging and ministering to your kids no matter their age, what their lives look like, or the decisions they've made. These are some resources that I was able to utilize through this project. Thank you.